Every who down in Who Newville liked the holidays a ton. But where to get great prices on gifts, they had no idea. None. They searched and they searched for great gifts under $25. Gifts for spouses and friends and even their toddlers. When suddenly one who shouted, Walmart has what you want, knowing they have Lego, Tree Hut, and low prices to flaunt. So they enjoy the holiday season as who's often do. Cheering and shouting, Walmart has incredible gifts. Who knew? Find gifts they'll love under $25 at Walmart.
I had that dream again. My small business needs to hire, but I don't use LinkedIn, and I hire an energy vampire. But also they're a literal vampire. And suddenly my team is spending all their time sharpening wooden stakes and buying bulk silver and rehearsing ancient chants, and then I wake up.
Don't let hiring nightmares ruin your dreams. LinkedIn Jobs' new AI assistant takes insights from over 1 billion professionals to create a short list of the best fits for you. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/quality. Start hiring today with LinkedIn.
Hello, my name is Damon Friedman, co-founder and president of SOF Missions. As a 20-year veteran within Special Operations, I've gone through many challenges due to my military service and time in combat. We felt called to start SOF Missions to serve our fellow brothers and sisters in arms, focusing on suicide prevention and resiliency. Our mission at SOF Missions is to empower warriors to find purpose and be resilient. Since 2011, when we started the organization, almost 3 million men and women have deployed to Iraq and Afghanistan. Unfortunately, the scars of war take a toll on their psychological, physical, social, and spiritual health. Many veterans feel a sense of hopelessness and a loss of purpose when they return to civilian life. They feel isolated and alone, unable to reconnect. And in the greatest of tragedies, over 20 veterans lose all hope and take their own lives. Our goal at SOF Missions is to provide veterans the tools and resources so that they don't become a statistic. We offer a unique approach to combating veteran suicide through a whole health intradisciplinary model. The Be Resilient program is a 4-pillar methodology that addresses the areas of psychological, physical, social, and spiritual wellness. We provide care through 3 delivery methods: medical clinics, retreats, and educational training. Since we started back in 2011, we have been able to reach veterans in all 50 states and have served over 3,000 veterans through the Be Resilient program. Being resilient is a multifaceted and complex issue. We know that to find a lasting solution, we have to address the whole warrior. Many challenges cannot be solved by providing the treatments and modalities of just one component, but by tackling them all. Now, we've expanded our services to include law enforcement and first responders. Together, we can make a lasting impact in the lives of warriors across the nation. To learn more, visit our website at sofmissions.org.
All right. Welcome back.
MisFitNation, the MisFitNation Show.
We are a show founded by a veteran and hosted by 2 veterans and a military spouse. Our mission is to get people to tell their stories to the world. If you're an author, share your tips with the Misfit Nation. If you're a musician or an actor, our audience needs to know how they too can get into the business. Coaches, we love our coaches. Come on and share your tips with the Misfit Nation to help them become better versions of themselves. If you are a corporate leader or an entrepreneur, come on and show how you did it and how hard you have fought for success. If you are a veteran, first responder, or Gold Star family, we would love to have you come on and share your story with the Misfit Nation. We always have time for you. If you're feeling down, alone, or starting to see the darkness, stop. Think about those who are around you. You are not alone. You will be missed. If you feel like your problems will be a burden to those in your inner circle or feel embarrassed, dial 988. If you are a veteran, take option 1. We need you to keep pushing forward. Don't make a permanent solution to a temporary problem. If you are a new listener, welcome to the MisFitNation Show. Be sure to subscribe to our show on your favorite podcast app. Also on our YouTube channel at @the_MisFitNation. Subscribe and click the bell to keep you up to date on our latest episodes and all of our news. You can also find us on Heroes Media Group and About Face Radio. Now, let's get to the show!
All right. Welcome back to the MisFitNation Show. It's your Sunday after dinner edition. I know you have plenty of places you could be tonight, watching NFL, watching a replay of NASCAR, still watching the Charlie Kirk Memorial, which is an amazing memorial today. If you did not get a chance to watch it after our show and catch up on all those pumped up speeches and the amazing outpouring of support for Charlie and his family. But we thank you for being here tonight with us, because we know you could be doing other things. Thank you for collecting your frequent flyer miles on the Misfit Nation and tuning into us tonight, Tuesday, and Thursday as well. Tonight, there's no bad news to report. Just keep those 4 aviators families in JBLM in your thoughts and prayers. Their names have not been released yet, and we will release them once we know them, and we will say their names so that their memory stays alive. Tonight, we have a great guest. He also is a U.S. Army veteran. He's a 12 mic firefighter. You don't meet a lot of them, and he can tell you the population is tiny, very tiny. Now he's a father. He was a fire chief, a patriot, a public servant fighting to defend democracy and the Constitution, and not only that, our rights. So without any further ado, let's welcome Erik Holt to the Misfit Nation. Welcome, Erik.
What's up, Rich? Thanks for having me, brother.
It's great to have you here, and great this time that we have a great connection and everything's working this time. So I guess second time's the charm, and that's sometimes that's how things work. And I'm grateful for that. I told you in the pre-show I love your shirt, and it's a great testament to the reason why you're wearing. It's a great testament as well.
Absolutely. Hey, in honor of Charlie Kirk today in our country.
Outstanding.
I thought I'd come on here with my patriotism as well.
That's awesome. And like we were also talking in the green room, it just united us. It made us stronger. It shows that our country can be stronger. And if we all stick together and lean for the right things and lean to make our community stronger, our houses stronger, our country will get stronger. And I think this is that turning point, not to take anything from his organization, but it is a turning point.
Amen to that. Absolutely.
Like I told you also, I'm only going to give a little bit about you. I want you to tell your story. Tell the story of Erik from as far back as you want to go to how we got into this brutal brawl you're in right now.
Yeah, I mean, it's a wild one, and thank you for letting me come on and tell it. Like you touched on, this is a fight that I've been fighting alone, but it has ramifications for everybody that listens, everybody in our country, and so that's why I'm telling it. And without further ado, I'll hop into it. So, I was a fireman for 22 years. I worked, like you mentioned, in the U.S. Army. I enlisted in 03, did my time, served in Iraq, got out in 08 at Fort Hood, and was honored to be on the civilian fire department there on Fort Hood, which is now back to Fort Hood. It was changed for a little bit, but now it's back. So I did about 10 years there, then moved up, transferred to Fort Carson, Colorado, served on the fire department there until 2022. In 2022, I had an opportunity, both personally and professionally, but the personal side was the court awarded me full custody of my 2 teenage daughters. And so with that, kind of taking a look at my profession, having 2 teen girls full time and going away for 48-hour shifts didn't jive super well. So, I could have made it work, but looked at different opportunities, and one presented itself where I took a fire chief's job out in Florissant, Colorado. So anybody that's in Colorado, if you're in Colorado Springs and you take a trip up the mountain, you'll end up in Florissant. And so that's where I was, just past Woodland Park. And I took over for a department that was on the verge of failure. It's a typical rural department that was barely functioning. The board had collapsed. The fire chief that was there had gotten in some trouble, and so they asked me to come in as an interim. And I took some time off from Fort Carson And it was supposed to be like a 2-week gig to just kind of figure out what was going on with that department and kind of help put the pieces back together. But that 2 weeks turned into 5 months, and all of my leave was gone. So I took a bet on myself. I actually resigned after 18 years of service with the feds and working fire, with no guarantees that I would get a permanent job. But I went ahead and took the risk. It fit what suited my family the best, and got to work. And that that happened. I had about 8 months, 9 months. Where we went from 4 or 5 members of the department to 62. We took the response times down from like 18 minutes from 911 call till somebody getting there, down to 7 minutes. We had, from responders just coming home from home and all that, to staffed personnel 24 hours a day, qualified firefighters, which you'd want. And everything was going great. And then May of 2023 came, and not only did my career trajectory change, but my personal life and this battle has happened since. But every 2 years, any special district or municipality generally has local elections. We were no different. So my board of directors had 5 seats, because of the turmoil when I had taken over. All 5 seats were up for reelection, and as we went into that, my job was to run the fire department, run personnel, train and motivate, respond to emergencies, right? So I didn't really care too much who was the board, but I thought, of course, the board that had hired me and supported me and seen this department grow over the last 9 months was in a pretty good position to be reelected or to be elected. They were on appointed terms at the time. And almost immediately, man, there was a weird vibe. There was a lot of tension in the air between the two sides. This opposing side had ran as a slate of 5, so their tagline was kind of, vote for one, vote for all. And election day happened. I was not there at the fire station. That's where the election was held. But the board had hired an attorney and their law firm to run the elections. It's an option that they have. And so I turned over the fire station and kind of worked from home for that day. I ended up at the station for a medical call where a gentleman unfortunately had a cardiac arrest offsite, but we had transported him via ambulance down there for a medevac, and that's where the medevac landing site was. So, we went through all that. That is a tough and unfortunate situation, of course. And then being the fire chief, once he was pronounced, then I had to go and inform his family. But that all kind of took place in the parking lot of the fire station while this election's going on. And so when I come back from sitting down with their family and letting them know, like your patriarch just passed away and there's nothing that we can do. We worked our hardest. I was approached by a member of the public that came up and said, "Hey, like I have something really concerning I want to report." And I was like, I'm just coming off this call. And she goes, "Look, this lady's talking in the electioneering zone." And so every state has their own version of this, but an electioneering box is this 100-foot perimeter, 200-foot, depending on your jurisdiction, where no electioneering can take place at a polling location. And she said, well, one of the poll watchers was walking around on her phone, and it sounded like she was asking if these people had been paid, and like was asking what vehicle description was coming in, and then she greeted people. I said, well, that's concerning, of course. So I took her to the designated election official, and then I went about my day. I went back to work. The days after that got a little more chaotic. So I had talked to that designated election official after the results. So there was some anomalies in just the vote totals. Again, at the time that this happened, I knew nothing about elections, but now I know quite a bit. But you can see the historical voter turnout for any jurisdiction, and this election had 3 times as many that had ever shown up in history. So that's kind of a statistical anomaly. So that was one point of concern with the election official, but she had also gotten some complaints. She worked for the law firm that represented us, so I worked with them pretty regularly as the fire chief. And so I was talking to him, and basically it didn't sit right. So on my social media, I've been making videos and kind of telling this story, and the way I tell it is I had just like this internal conflict happening as I was hearing these things, because one, I knew the performance of the board that had supported me and had hired me, uh, and how the community had viewed them, and then none of them were elected, and they only got like a third of the total votes, right? So it was kind of just weird. Uh, so I decided, you know what, like I'm gonna I'm gonna evaluate this. I knew it, all day long. Anybody that says different would be a liar. That it was not in my best interest to look into my incoming boss's conduct. Right? I don't think anybody that works for any company would say that's a good idea. So I literally it was like at home one night, and I tucked my girls in and kind of had dinner, did all that, and I just sat there and I was just like stewing on my couch, and I'm like, all right, Eric, like you took an oath to this country, you believe in it. If you go looking for something, it's going to be trouble. And I had to, like, I guess, negotiate with myself what was more important, whether my morality and what I believed in was more important than potentially losing my job. And I knew that. So I will not lie to anybody. I won't say anything otherwise. Like, I knew the risk, right? But I sat there and I said, screw it. Like, I am not one that can just let things like that happen. If something took place, I want those people held accountable. And I'm going to look into it. And I knew at that moment, if I found something, I couldn't turn away from it. And sitting here 2.5 years later, that decision that I made that night still holds true. Like, I still haven't walked away from what I found. So what I did next was, there's a security system for the fire station that is operated by a third party company, that has the servers and provides the equipment and all that stuff. And so I contacted them and went after work the next day, went to Walmart, bought thumb drives, showed up to this company, handed them the thumb drives, and I said, hey, I need the footage from this date and time to this date and time on all the applicable cameras. And they said, okay, cool, it's X amount of dollars and we'll have it in a day or two ready for you to pick up. I said, okay, cool. Paid them. I think they did it pretty quick. So I think I got it like the next afternoon. I went back after work. It may have been two, but went in again after work, picked it up. And when I talk about it, it's like, I don't know. I just, like I was holding it in my hand and I'm like, man, what could be on this thing? I don't even know what I'm looking for. So I go home, cook dinner for my girls, have dinner, put them to bed. And I always say, like, I'm no smart dude. I'm an idiot, man. So like for me to crack some case, I don't know how to go about it, but let's try. But I was like putting it off, I was like a little bit nervous, which I don't generally get. But what I ended up doing was I printed off all the election laws for the state of Colorado that I was in, and I had them all there, and I read through the rules, right? And it kind of gave me, all right, let me see what I'm looking for. So I plugged the thumb drive in, and it's like 40 something hours of footage, man, because it was a 12-hour election on 4 cameras. And I go, oh geez, what am I doing, man? But whatever you want to call it, I was dedicated to figuring out if something of mischief took place, and I just started watching. And as I went through video clip after video clip, they're broken down into 1 hour per camera clips. So I just sit there and play it. And then what I did is I had the rules out in front of me. I would just put a tick mark if I noticed something that violated that rule, right? And I don't know, 3 days goes by, after I like spent all night up late watching these things. And I'm looking at that sheet and it's just hundreds of tally marks. And I'm like, oh man. So I went back through it, and I started putting the pieces together. And please, if anybody goes to my Justice for Holt pages, the video is on there where I explain everything and I show the actual footage, or screenshots of. But for the listeners and for you, Rich, what I ended up uncovering was like in the first camera, it's interior of the building, and it's looking down at the poll watchers table, so their backs are to the camera, but you can see them. It's all high def. And then further in the room is the polling boxes, right, with the screens. And so I was able to watch like what the poll watchers were doing, and I had the rules. No electronic devices, no recording, no tabulating, no, basically as a poll watcher, you're allowed to sit there, be quiet, and observe to ensure that it's a fair election. But that's not what this group was doing. And so I started putting these things together. So what they ended up doing was somebody was offsite. It was pretty clear that somebody offsite was coordinating this stuff. But each poll watcher had a clicker, which I'll get back to that, and their phones. And so what I picked up on first was these poll watchers would answer their phone and then they'd walk out and greet somebody and then come back in. And I'm like, okay, maybe once or twice in a 12-hour period of time, you can somewhat make an excuse for. But I'm talking hundreds of times. So they were getting up from the poll watchers, walking out, coming back in. And then I could watch as voters would come in, they would get their ballot from the election judges, walk behind the screen, cast fill it out. But then they were like, quote unquote, checking in with the poll watchers. There'd be a tip of a hat or a nod and a thumbs up. And I was like, man, that's effing weird, like it's nobody's business. That's illegal. And then I started picking up on that. Every time they would get that sort of confirmation, they would click, 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 and then they would show each other. So I was on to the scheme. You ever seen the track counters, little round things with the button? One click, it adds up. So each one of them had one. And they were keeping track. And I was like, oh man, I can't believe I discovered that. Then I was like, is that enough? Is that enough to steal an election or be considered election fraud? I don't know. It's bad enough, but I kept watching. And then there was I remember I told you guys I had that interaction with one of the people that had reported stuff. So on the cameras, I was able to actually find that time where I was there, right, and kind of corroborate it. So then I backtracked a few minutes, and I actually can see the lady come out, and the outside camera has audio, and sure as crap, man, there's a piece that cuts because of wind, but she's like, is this what they're driving? Is this the ones pulling into the station right now? And she's looking for him, and the wind kind of picked up again, and she's like, well, I'm a little concerned about, and tails off. And then she puts her phone down and like waves these people over, gets close to them, and you can hear her telling like who to vote for. And I was like, okay, now that person that reported that, I can corroborate this. So I know there's a coordinated effort, but is that enough? Like I got to find the full link. And so two other pieces come into play. Another camera was in the ballot counting room, and that had audio as well. So some of the conversations that took place with the paid election judges were very worrisome. I will say that. Like there was one lady, she's like, "Oh, this election's fixed," and like laughs while they're counting ballots. So what they were doing is they had the polling location tabulations, and then they would go into the ballot counting room. And as it's on my pages, so please go watch the videos. But as they call out names, you can hear them click, 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 and I went, oh my goodness. So they have both sides. They know the baseline numbers and they know the counted numbers, and they can compare those and they can say, this is the percentage of votes that we have. And then after most of the day goes by, that outside camera, 3 poll watchers and a candidate meet under that camera and they detail the whole thing. So just so you know, what we were doing in there is we're counting every time they say 3 of our names, which gives us the majority of the board, we click it. And so one of the ladies actually comes up and she says, well, if we have, I think it was like 800 or something, then we're good. We don't need any more voters. And so I knew I had this scheme on HD video. And so I contacted that attorney that represented the district, and I said, hey, I looked into this. I'm really worried about this. And she goes, I am too. I contacted the district attorney's office. They're going to do an investigation into this. Um, and some conversation of attorney-client privilege happened there, because I was the fire chief of the district. So her job and my job were to protect the fire department, that entity, not people, right? Not individual board members or anything like that. But at this point, we knew that election fraud had taken place. And so I reached out to the district attorney's office, and I would say it's like how naive I was then, 2.5 years ago, that I literally just called like this big city district attorney's office, and I said, hey, can I talk to the DA? And they like laughed at me, and they're like, no, we represent 500,000 people. He doesn't have time for you. And I'm like, okay, well, I have, this footage that I need to get to somebody. They're like, okay, well, we'll have one of our investigators call you. And so, like, the next day, of course, I get a phone call from an investigator. He's like, I need to meet with you. I took this complaint. I need to see this. I'm not the guy that investigates election fraud, but I'm going to meet with you. This other guy is on vacation. When he gets back, he'll take the case over. But I need to meet with you ASAP. So I meet with him, show him the footage, man. If you've ever been around a cop, they're really like normal smoke and joke. Firemen and cops get along pretty well. But when they go into work mode, they get very rigid. And so we were kind of shooting the stuff, talking smack, having fun. And then I plug in this and I start showing him the footage. And at that time, I had gone through and kind of somewhat, timestamped some of the most egregious things. And I started showing it to him. And like he just got rigid, man. He was straight as a board. He just was like, I can't believe you have this footage. This is like clear election fraud. And so, luckily that's documented. But what ended up happening next? Well, actually, before I jump into the next part, you have any question for me, Rich? I'm sorry, I'm just kind of talking.
While you're going through this, that's a very small town. I was just looking up Florissant while you're on there. You have your 2 daughters there. They have to go to school there, of course. And
Oh,
your
yeah.
name's going to be highlighted. How much, I guess, retaliation did they get, or any bad stuff happened to them during this process right now?
So, I guess they were kind of lucky, man. It wasn't super known. I did all of this stuff on my own time. So I'm meeting with people off work, and then I'm going to work as a fire chief. And so just like any elections, right, there's like a lame duck period where
Yep.
the outgoing, and so in this transition period, my interactions are pretty limited with these folks. They had like emailed some stuff to me that was alarming. Like I got an email like the 10th of May, which is like 1 week after the election, 2 weeks from when they take office, demanding like I give them the username and password to the security system. And I was like, well, that's a little weird for an incoming board to be their number one item. But
Yes.
I have that email. It is evidence of everything. So um, it didn't really until May 24th. And how we got to May 24th when it kind of like came out was the board meeting was scheduled for May 25th to be the transition meeting where the old board would hand over everything to the new board. It takes place. We keep on driving. Um, I had met with the DA investigator May 19th. So we, like things are happening pretty rapidly. And the outgoing board president files a court injunction that says like, hey, we're asking the courts to step in, stay the election until this criminal investigation can happen. And then when she did that, you have to post public meeting agendas. And so she posted a public agenda on May 24th, 2023 that said, hey, due to a criminal investigation into election fraud, we are postponing the meeting from May 25th until June 10th, which she had statutory right to do. The incoming 5 people said absolutely not. We don't agree to that. And they like there's tons of stuff in the evidence of my court stuff where they were like, we're seizing power. We seize power. And so on May 25th, they just declare themselves in power, which is again a really weird use of vocabulary for a fire department board of directors, right? Like we're supposed to focus on the service we provide to the community here. Um, so it was just quiet from May 2nd until that 25th, really, and then all hell broke loose because it was out, you know. So May 26th, the day after they claim to seize power, they go to the bank and freeze the bank accounts. And I get told Friday, May 26th, 2023, hey, we've like I have a recorded call that's posted on my Justice for Hope pages, so everybody can go and just listen to it. But the board president calls me. He's like, "Hey, I froze the bank accounts," and I'm like, "It's Memorial Day weekend. What do you like? What if we catch a fire? You know, like so in the mountains of Colorado, Memorial Day weekend is the official start to summer, man. All the cities flood up. So, you know, imagine a fire chief if you can put yourself in my position to be told like you don't have any operating expenses for the biggest weekend of the year. And I'm like, what do you know, like what's going on here? So mind you, the person that did that committed bank fraud because they're not on the bank accounts. There was never a transfer. So he just went in and I'm not an attorney, but he committed some sort of fraud, right? He stated that he had the authority to do that when he didn't. And so the game is on now, I will say, as the fire chief, like from that moment, it was just survival mode. You know what I mean? Like at this point, once the criminal investigations, I know I'm about to lose my job. I know I'm about to lose my livelihood. I'm a single dad of 2 teenage girls. Like I'm trying to prepare mentally to do that, but also I have a responsibility. So I'm still responding to calls. I'm still doing training with my firefighters. And like it just ramps, man. Like it's really hard to capture into words. But like day after day after day from the May 26th, it really because of Memorial Day weekend, let's say May 30th until June 6th, there's this 1 week span of time where it was just absolute chaos. Bank was frozen. We like couldn't pay our fuel bill. So like I don't even have fuel to put in fire trucks. I've got the power company, like we're gonna shut the lights off. Just insanity. And so one of the board members, June 5th, emails me and it's his response to like that court injunction that had been filed. And he sends it to me. I immediately email back. I'm like, hey, I'm not a party to this. You can't include me. Like, you know, my job is to be the fire chief. I'm not involved in that. And he emails back like immediately. Well, you need to read it. I've implicated you for felony charges, blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, yeah, okay, like we're getting comical at this point, but what, you know, let me read it. And basically, he cites the fact that I accessed the security camera footage of the election, that was somehow a violation of his rights, and he's asking the courts. So, I mean, in layman's terms, he admits to being very concerned about this election footage and is going after me because I'm the one that turned it over. And then June 6th happens, man. Insurance company calls and they say, you didn't pay your bill. And the board calls me. So the insurance called him, the board president. And they're like, you don't have insurance unless this gets paid. And so he calls me. He's like, what does that mean? I'm like, that means if our trucks crash or one of our people get hurt, it's our liability insurance. Like, that's how we operate and cover our butts. And so if we don't have it, we have a risk that you guys need to evaluate here. And he tells me, shut the district down. And I'm like, do you know what that's going to do? And so now I'm like, you know, okay. So the second I shut this fire department down, every news organization in the state is going to start calling, like, why can't your fire department operate? So I do that. I post on our website. I call all the local chiefs and I say, hey, like, our district's shut down. We can't respond to calls. I will stay in response mode as the fire chief and accept whatever risk that comes with. That way, nobody, that has a medical emergency doesn't have anybody showing up. But we are in essence shut down. And so, as you can imagine, the news came calling, right? And it's a big black eye to this new board who's under criminal investigation, all this stuff. And so, just to kind of speed through the story, man, 33 days after I met with that criminal investigator, I was fired from my job. And the reason given was that the insurance bill didn't get paid. So, do with that what you will. But yeah, so all of a sudden, man, I'm a dad of two girls that are in their formative years here, with no income. But my girls are absolutely amazing. I like that. The hardest thing in that whole situation was going home and telling them. Like, I went from that meeting. They did it in such a public manner too, man. Like, I have a picture of it, but there was a commercial popcorn machine they brought in and a commercial like lemonade dispenser, and they were like handing it out at this meeting to fire their local fire chief.
Wow.
Like, they made a spectacle out of it, to be, nasty, of course, but I had to go home and face my girls, man. And just like, we're gonna be all right. We're gonna figure it out one way or the other. But I don't have a job. And
Right.
so I don't know if anybody's ever been in that situation, but it's tough as a dad for sure. But just did what I could. It took me a year to find another job. I literally lost everything. I mean, I filed a federal lawsuit for First Amendment retaliated speech, and that's a 2-year battle to get where I'm at now. How are we on time, Rich?
You're so good. You're doing good.
All right. So yeah, like 2 weeks after I get fired, I file a lawsuit saying, I got retaliated for cooperating with a criminal investigation. And 2 years in federal court is nothing but procedure, man. Like, I have the videos, I have all the evidence, I have every email document, recorded phone calls, all this stuff. And again, being naive, I thought, all right, I lost my job. I'll get it back in a month or two, and I get in court and I show the jury this, or I show the judge, or however court works. And for 2 years, my attorney's like, just be quiet. We don't want to tip them off to nothing, and it's just procedure. So literally, it took 2 years for us to file the complaint saying this happened, them to respond to it, them motion to dismiss it, and us saying, no, it's got merit. Surviving that, I did a deposition, and then they filed for summary judgment, and it took 9 months from that point for a judge's decision. And Judge Wang of the federal court in Denver granted summary judgment, dismissing my case, stating that it was my job responsibility to administer and investigate the election, basically. Because there was nobody else that she said that could have done that it was an official duty of me as the fire chief. Now, I disagree with that. And for your listeners, official duties is a huge factor. If you are doing something in your official capacity, i.e., as the fire chief, you don't have First Amendment right. You're not protected by the First Amendment, which is something, is scary to come to learn in this process. But I contend that I did this off duty. I paid for it out of pocket, out of my own personal funds. I investigated all of this, put it all together, and then took it and cooperated with a criminal investigator. How in the world can that be the duties of a fire chief? And so, man, I tell you, when that came through, I just like law, just was like, F everything, man. I lost. Our Constitution doesn't mean nothing. Our judicial system is, and I think it's not just my timing. If you look at what was going on over the last 2.5 years in the courts, I think a lot of Americans would feel that way.
Yes.
So I made a decision. Like I couldn't. My attorney, I had paid him $150,000. I sold my home, the only thing I had in life. Moved my kids halfway across the country so we could stay with family and find a job. Uh, and I shelled out this money to an attorney, and I lost it. Right, so I was just crushed. Everything I had in life was gone. Um, and why I'm doing shows like yours is this army around you of people that care for you, man. I was just like, F it. I lost. I'm moving on. And my friends and my kids, they were like, come here, let's talk for a minute. You're not one to give up. And I was just like, there's nothing I can do. Uh, and you have a window of time when you have to either appeal or you don't. And so just everybody I know was like, you can't give up, man. You don't live that way. You're not that character. I'm like, I don't have money to keep fighting this. Um, and so my attorney was like, hey, do you want an appeal? And I'm like, yeah, I would love to. He's like, okay, give me 50 grand up front and I'll do it. And I'm like, bro, the well is dry. Um, and so it was just a despair kind of time period for a couple of weeks, but I just said, screw it, man. Nobody can represent me better than me and my story. And so I filed the appeal pro se. And at that moment, I said, I'm not going to be quiet about this. If I lose everything for uncovering election fraud, America's going to know about it. Everybody is going to know. Everybody's going to see this footage that I've been trying to get to a jury. And so I started my Justice for Holt pages with the help of a friend that does media stuff. And I just started recording, man. I just started, 5 to 10 minute videos telling chunks of the story. And I had a lot of support. I mean, from sea to shining sea, man. I'm here. I've been on a lot of um, interviews and stuff, and I wish I'd have done it 2 years ago, but I'm doing it now, and I'm showing the footage, and that has turned into. I did all of my briefs on my own. I sort of became an attorney of hobby, I guess you would say, right? I dug into it for months, just read case law, and I put together the argument that I think will win. And luckily, lately, because I've been doing all this, I do have a legal fund that's going to take on oral arguments if I'm awarded those in the 10th Circuit. Because my worst nightmare would have to be going and acting like an attorney in front of a panel of federal judges. But I am very confident in the argument because uh, there's a couple factors that have to be in place, and I think I nail all of them. This wasn't an official duty of a fire chief. They were aware of it. It was of public concern, which is one of the check marks you got to hit. And they fired me to get access and delete all the records against them. Um, and just to button up, that criminal investigation was going on, and just recently I pieced all this craziness even together. But I talked about the despair. I could never figure out, like, 2 weeks after I got fired, I got a call from the DA's office, and they're like, hey, we're dropping this investigation, no charges. And I just, like, I remember sitting there on my phone, just like, I couldn't breathe. Like, what are you talking about? I literally gave you high definition footage of hundreds of election crimes. And I did all the work. I time stamped them. I told you what the election fraud, blah, 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 violation was. And they just dropped it. And I couldn't figure it out, man, for the life of me. And in the time that I was doing my appellate brief, you ever have these moments where, like, two
Yeah.
things in your brain connect? So I've been reading all my stuff, and I swear I was dead asleep, man. But I shot up in bed and I was like, "There's no way." And what it was in my head was uh, the law firm that represents these people is called Vaughn and DeMuro, and it has a weird sort of spelling on Vaughn. And I remember reading the DA's report, and the guy with the ultimate authority that signed his name that said he was going to end the criminal investigations. Last name was Vaughn, And I went,
Yeah.
I mean, I'm talking like a shot up in the middle of sleep at 2 a.m. And I'm like, it can't be. So I got up the next day and I was like at work and I remembered it and I started looking into it and I was like, holy cow. I put the timeline together within 3 days of the law firm name with the name of Vaughn and the criminal investigation. 3 days later is canceled. No file of charges.
Oh.
And so I kicked it to a private investigator. I said, hey, is there a relationship with these two? And I got the report back that said it's father and son. So I go through all of this, investigated on my own, turn it over to the DA's office. I get fired. I lose everything. The DA is doing a criminal investigation. I believe in this. And then these people that fired me hired a law firm who happens to be daddy of the guy with the authority to cancel it.
Wow.
So I was pretty gutted by that. But man, I'm a fighter. I'm like still fighting it. I've
You're
been
fighting
put.
for 2 years now. 2 years now in this fight. And the biggest
Yeah.
thing you get out of this is your name back because you're not going to get hired back there, or you probably don't want to go back to a community that stabs you dead in the chest, kind of like Brutus and et tu, Brute on Julius Caesar. You don't want that to happen to you again. I know you're working for as emergency operations somewhere else now and doing great things there. You've established yourself there. The best thing you're going to get out of this is your name and the fact that you're fighting as hard as you are for your name, and that shows your daughters that you're going to fight as well. That pays tribute to who you are as a man and as a leader going to the future. Because, like I said, you're not going to get that job back. You might get some monetary compensation back, but if I was you, I would not want to even go back to that town for the way they treated you, except for maybe some friends you might have. What is your next steps as you go forward? And then we'll get to a question from the audience.
Yeah, I mean, putting the piece back together of life, man. My daughters are my everything. So I am working again. It took over 12 months, but we moved halfway across the country. We're back, right? Well, at least there's an income. I am raising the alarm to election fraud. I think for literally 4 years, it was piped down our throats that if you believe that any part of election fraud exists in this country, you're a conspiracy theorist. And although mine's only a local election, this is the reality of the game. If you can
Yeah.
cheat a local election, you can cheat a county election, then you can cheat a state election, and you can cheat a national election. You just play different strategies in different jurisdictions, and when you get caught, it's only this one isolated incident. I have learned, and I've made a lot of connections, and I'm raising the alarm that I have the footage, and I will not give up the fight. So my goal now is to get this appellate court in the 10th Circuit Court of Appeals victory, which then becomes confirmed case law that protects, first responders and public officials really, uh, to expose corruption. Because if such a broad assessment of official duties can be placed on a public official just by proximity, that I knew of an election because of my position as a fire chief, therefore I'm not protected by the First Amendment, nobody will ever be able to expose corruption again. That's a public official. And so my goal is to get that victory and to put my life back together, honestly. I'm trying to recoup the 150 grand that I lost to this wild judge and these attorneys. But beyond that, yeah, I mean, I just it's more about country than it is about me, for sure.
Awesome. And the question from the audience is from Moments Matter 2007. How can citizens and communities better support public servants who speak up like yourself?
Man, that's a great question. So as a public official, in my case, a fire chief, man, you're always looked up to and people are very kind to you and they think highly of you. Uh, I enjoyed those relationships. And the moment I was fired, it's the loneliest feeling in the world because suddenly everybody looks at you like you've done wrong. Um, so literally going into the grocery store in the town that I grew up in, people that would, be excited and come hug me and all that won't even make eye contact with me suddenly. And it's a very lonely feeling, that comes with a lot of despair and a lot of bad thoughts. And it takes a lot to get through. But I would say, with social media and the day and age that we are, people will put out a narrative. Don't buy into it. Like, trust people's character above what you see on social media, and support them. Get to know the actual story, and if you have questions, reach out to them. I'm sure they're willing to share. But don't leave somebody in that empty space while they're trying to protect the community.
Outstanding. Moments matter. I hope that answers your question. And thanks for chiming in with your question. Erik, our 50 minutes has flown by here. I hope we got enough of your story out there for the Misfit Nation to share it with their networks and get it out to even further and reach those tentacles out there to get more people involved, to maybe push your case forward and maybe get more people cheering behind you and get this case settled.
Appreciate it, man. It's always a blessing to be able to share the story. Like I said, if people can go to my Justice for Holt pages, see the evidence, see the videos, and if you can give a couple bucks to help me recoup that money, Justice for Holt on Give, Send, Go, or GoFundMe, I'd appreciate the
Outstanding. You already just mentioned where to find you is on Justice for Erik or Justice for Holt on all those sites. So every site I think is on. I've shared most of them in the chat while Erik was talking, and they'll be in the show notes as well. The last question I have for you, Erik, I ask this to every guest as we're about to wrap up. It's not a stump the chump question. It's just a question for you. What's 3 things the Misfit Nation can start doing tomorrow to be better humans?
Oh man, build an army around each of us, right? Everybody has lonely moments. So be an army of supporters, right? We, from the veteran community, we deal with 22 a day, right? We want to get it down to 0. So support each other. So be a good patriot, be a good person, be a good battle buddy. That's all we need in this world.
Outstanding. Erik, thanks again for taking the time on your Sunday night to hang out with us. I can't even remember what day it is now. Awesome. On a Sunday night to hang out with us. And I'm glad we were able to get this thing done, and technical difficulties are out the window this time. Appreciate what you're doing and the fight you're putting up and showing your daughters what the fight is all about and the community that you live in. Keep up the good fight and let us know what happens in the future.
I'll be back on when we get it. So I appreciate you, brother. Thank you so much.
Outstanding. Thank you. Misfit Nation, as always, remember, a day tomorrow with you is better than a day without you. Do not make that permanent solution to a temporary problem. Reach out to that circle of friends around you. They will answer. Text them, call them, do what you got to do. Dial 988, take option 1 if you're a veteran, or follow the prompts if you don't want to identify as a veteran. If you are not a veteran, just follow the prompts. Or if you really need to, just reach out to us here. info@themisfitnation.com, Steven@themisfitnation.com, or Jake@themisfitnation.com. We will answer. We will talk to you. We will be there for you. Until next time on Tuesday with D. Logan and the Tuesday crew, be humble, stay hungry, and keep hustling.
Thanks for checking us out and being a part of the Misfit Nation Show. Don't forget to visit our website at themisfitnation.com. That's themisfitnation.com. Check out all our past episodes and get some of the great Misfit Nation gear for you and your family. As always, be humble, stay hungry, and keep hustling, because we are
Misfit Nation. Misfit Nation.